Back here on Weekend Joe, driven by Mungenast St. Louis Acura, Mungenast Alton Toyota here on ClaibsOnline.com. We are joined now by our good pal, Jim Thomas, JT of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, covering the Blues. And JT wanted to wait till Friday to get you on to see how the Blues did last night against the Capitals. What is a good word to describe what we have seen out of the St. Louis Blues 16 games into the season?
Joseph, I would say multiple personalities. Would schizophrenic fit for these guys? I mean, it's a little bit of a convoluted stat, but the Blues last night became the first team in the entire history of the NHL to win 5 games in a row after losing as many as 8 games in a row. So there they are, making history. I think usually when you lose 8 games in a row, you're pretty crummy and maybe you win a couple after that, but then you're going to continue losing. I don't know what we've got here as a hockey team, Joe. I would say I think what we've seen in these last 5 games to a large degree is kind of how I envisioned the team post David Perron, and I think it was Doug Armstrong's vision. They still have pretty good offense, but not like last year, and their defense should be a little better than last year. That's what we've seen for these 5 games. I think that's what we saw for the first 3 games. How do you explain the 8 games in between, which were just horrible? So yeah, it's been interesting.
So that's the thing. I mean, I think during that 8-game win streak, a lot of people completely forgot that the Blues actually won their first 3 games. I mean, you would have thought that this was the longest losing streak to start a season ever, but no, they had the comfort, they had the padding of those 3 wins to start the year, and now they're back on this again. They're a 500 team. What is the identity of this Blues team?
I think it's kind of what we're seeing now, although, I think Washington, as we sit here, still registering shots on goal against Thomas Greiss. I mean, it's just amazing. I think this is the identity. They've averaged, not even counting the shootout goal, they've averaged 4 goals a game during the 5-game winning streak. And really, in 3 of the games, they've gotten just terrific goaltending, 2 by Jordan Binnington and last night by Greiss. And I know Greiss gave up 4 goals, but still, when you consider that he gave up that he faced 51 shots on goal, second most in his career, and Greiss has been around for a while. He's 36, so second most shots on goal he faced, and you need the good goaltending. It was an important game, I thought, for Greiss because he'd been okay, he'd held him in games, but he'd given up some goals and maybe some soft goals in those first 3 starts. The Blues would love to have Joel Hofer play the entire season down in Springfield to get some seasoning. But, if you can't get a win from your backup goalie, sooner or later, you're going to have to think, well, we've just got to bring up Hofer. So it was an important night for him. That's for sure.
As you sit there in the press box, I'm guessing it's probably you, JR, Louis, you guys are the ones that have been there for all the games already this year. So as you're sitting there watching that, I mean, yesterday, especially a game like yesterday, when they go up 3-0 there in that first period, I mean, what are you guys saying to each other, knowing what you had, the roller coaster that you've seen so far?
Well, what we're thinking is, and we love Chucky Sideburns, Charlie Lindgren, who came out of nowhere and went 5-0-0, really helped bail out the Blues season, mainly in December. And I think we're all thinking, boy, Chucky Sideburns doesn't look very, very good. The Schenn goal, Lindgren gave up that hole near side, but we're like, okay, 3-0. But in my head, I swear, I thought, okay, you've got Ovechkin on the other side. You've got a team that they're missing. Capitals team, they're missing some guys, but they still got some guys who know how to put it in the net. 1 more goal, 4-0, and this is over. And they didn't get that 1 more goal until much later in the game. And so the second period comes, and all of a sudden, the Blues are getting dominated. And I thought this was their 4th game in 6 days. It was a back-to-back. With the first game being a road game. Well, not a long flight, but you're still getting on a plane. And I thought, wow, I thought maybe they'd lose their legs in the third period, but it looked like they lost their legs in just about everything else in the second. And then the third period, 22-3 were the shots on goal. So and then the shootout. Jojo, you go to the fifth and sixth round. You have Robert Thomas, and we're joking. Okay, you can't pass here because there's no one to pass. Robert, you're going to have to shoot here. 0 for 2 in his career on shootouts. So not a guy who's been used much. And then that's the fifth round guy. And then in the sixth round, you have Buchnevich, who's kind of like Robert Thomas Light in the sense that he'd rather defer than shoot too. As you know, Berube's constantly on him to shoot more. And Buchnevich 0 for 4 in his career on shootouts. But Buchnevich finds a way to get it in. And the Blues and their fans go home happy. Suddenly, they're 8-8, Joe, and they're 1 point out of the second wild card spot here.
Right. I mean, 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, it was all talk of who do the Blues trade away? Do they, talk of, okay, hey, they're going to have the first pick in the draft. What's that guy going to look like in a Blues uniform?
Yeah, we're researching Connor Bedard there for the number 1 overall pick. He's the guy this year.
But Doug Armstrong said, he had said that Craig Berube wasn't going anywhere. So what does this say about Craig Berube and his coaching, the way that he coaches those guys up in the locker room to get them back on this side of things?
Yeah. He did reel them back. One, I think it shows that his message has not gotten stale. Because let's face it, not only were the Blues losing, they were getting smoked in most of those games. 38-12 goals, 4 goals against during the 8 games. 38-12. That's not supposed to happen. And it's so bad that you're thinking either they've quit on the coach or they don't like each other. And it turns out maybe neither of those is the case. Berube is a stickler and he doesn't mind skill. I mean, he doesn't want to turn Jordan Kyrou into a fourth-line grinder, but you've got to play defense. You've got to be responsible defensively, and he likes a simple game. And this was during the pregame after the morning skate yesterday for the Capitals game. I asked him when the players see that playing the simple game, being responsible defensively, putting in the effort to check, does that reinforce? Yeah, this is the formula. And he kind of shook his head and chuckled a little bit and said, "No, they all like to make the skill plays, and that's what hockey is." So it's a constant battle for him to say, "Okay, you can make the fancy passes, this and that, but you've still got to play defense. You've still got to check." And I think it's a constant battle with today's players, and it's not going to change.
How much credit do you give the Blues moms for turning this thing around?
You definitely have to give them a lot of credit. Now, they weren't here for San Jose. They weren't here in Vegas. I don't think the Blues trusted them around the slot machines, in Vegas. So, but the 2 wins there. Lou Korac said it best. He said, "Okay, you don't want to get your dads upset if it's on the dad's trip. With the moms, you don't want to disappoint mom."
Right.
And so, I give them.
It's different. I mean, it's different. The way the parents, the dad, dads will yell at you. They'll tell what are you doing? You're stupid, this and that. The moms are just gonna be like, I don't know. Why can't you just score a goal? I don't get it. Why, the net's right there. You can't put it in. Like,
why did you let that guy score on you?
Right.
Why did you let him flash you into the boards? Yeah.
It's a different kind of it's a different way of parenting sports parents. Their moms and dads are very different in the way they do things.
Yeah, in general. Certainly in general. And I just, as an aside, Joe, I've always, as a lifetime, and I still consider myself a football writer, just the traditions of hockey just never cease to amaze me. One, the even the lineup after you score a goal, the guy that scores, and then everybody else is behind him. The rookies, if it's your first game, you get to take the lap out without the helmet. Wink, wink. We can't find your helmet. You're going to have to go out without your helmet. The veterans hide it. And although Tyler Tucker didn't get to do that because he didn't know until midway through warm-up that he was going to play. And then this whole concept of moms and dads trips. I don't know. Could you imagine the Dallas Cowboys when Michael Irvin and that crazy bunch there having a mom's trip for a Cowboys game? I can't. Can you? And here you do it in hockey. They're in the locker room after practice before pregame. They're showing him video, kind of the pre-scout video that they show the players. They're going out to dinner with the players. They're in the stands. And the mom's karma hasn't left because almost all the moms, although they're not sitting together in the box, almost all the moms came back to St. Louis and are checking out this homestand in Washington and then the 2 successive games against Anaheim. So we still got a little mom's magic at work here.
Was there a mom that you got a chance to talk to this past week that any kind of story that really stuck out to you?
Well, Braden Shen's mother is funny, and she joked a lot. She gave her husband, her name's Rita. She gave her husband Jeff a lot of jabs when I talked to her because Braden Shen's been around for a while in this league. His brother Luke has been around even longer. Now playing with Vancouver, I believe. Jeff Shen has been to 17 dad's trips. And so finally, Rita gets to go on a mom's trip. Jeff's a little jealous. And so she gave him some jibes. But yeah, I talked to a lot of the moms, some just briefly, some in depth, just some great stories. Lindsay Bennington, Jordan's mom, telling, she was a teacher, elementary school teacher for 32 years, retired right before COVID. Good timing, I'd say there. But just how Jordan couldn't go to hockey practice unless he had his homework finished, And also Jordan telling her at 6 years old when she got him started playing that I'm going to make the NHL and I'm going to get you a car. And sure enough, he makes the NHL and she gets a Volvo. I would have maybe gone for a Porsche or a sports car or something. She picked Volvo, right? A good solid car, I guess. And also describing Jordan as a kid, one of the words she used was mischievous. Yeah, that kind of sounds like Jordan Bennington, doesn't? Little mischievous. Probably, when the street hockey games weren't going well, maybe threw a water bottle at the other team, something like that. But yeah, lots of good stories. Ryan O'Reilly's mom bringing a big tub of cookies. And hockey players, and I did a story on this right around Thanksgiving when eating gluttony for most of us reaches its peak there in the holiday season, but just how healthy they ate. And O'Reilly's a vegetarian. I said, wait a minute. And because he said he wasn't going to share. He was tempted not to share with his teammates. And I said, is that really healthy? And he said, well, there's some oatmeal in them. So there's some health value. But yeah, just lots of good stories. I went up to Barbashev's mom, Marina, and asked her questions. And Mrs. Toropchenko was there. And I quickly figured out Marina Barbashev didn't speak hardly any English because I'd look at her and then Mrs. Toropchenko would answer all the questions. But just fantastic. And here's the thing. They're from all over the world. They had moms from Australia, Sweden, Finland, Canada, Russia, U.S., but they're all alike and the same. And even though their sons are succeeding at the highest level of the sports, how many moms across the country that their sons didn't make it to the NHL or whatever the sport is, did that whole mom thing of supporting the son, driving him to practice at odd hours or to games, sitting in baseball through the hot sun and tournaments? Everyone can relate to that. And so I think that part of it's really neat. Just, what being a parent and having kids in sports, amateur sports means.
JT, I want to talk about the upcoming schedule for the Blues right now. First off, a little oddity in the schedule. We're used to seeing back-to-back games, but usually it's a home and away. Right. The Anaheim Ducks are now coming to town here in St. Louis, and they're going to play Saturday and then again on Monday. I don't think I've ever seen that on the schedule before. Have you?
Well, let's go back to the first COVID year, 2021. Remember when they didn't play anyone in the East, and they played the same 7 teams. You had that.
All the conferences, all the divisions were sponsored too. They all had sponsors on them.
Yeah. The Claves Online division. No, I don't think there was one on that. But anyway, and I remember because of some COVID cancellations with other teams, they actually played Arizona 7 times in a row.
Yes.
Remember, you played. There were what 4? Well, it was before Seattle, so there were 3 8-team divisions and then a Canadian, 7 Canadian teams. But that's all you played, those 7 teams over and over, and they played Arizona 7 times in a row. Not all in St. Louis, some were in Arizona. But Joe, we've got a few of those this year. You have the 2 with Anaheim, and then the other 2 that right off the top of my head, and there may be another. Now these aren't both in the same city, but they play Detroit. Unfortunately, it's late. We're going to see the Detroit Blues with Perron and Sundqvist and Fabry and Wallman and Husso, all those guys. That's late in the season, but the first game's in St. Louis, and then they play at Detroit. And the very last 2 games of the season, they play Dallas in St. Louis. This is like April 13th and 14th, and then they go to Dallas. But yeah, the two Anaheims at home is really unusual.
I think Calgary does 2 in a row too in January.
Really? Okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's
so you got a few of those.
Yeah,
I actually liked it, and I think the players, they didn't like playing the same team, but I think the players liked like being in the same town for 2 days, even if there was an off day in between. Just made the travel a little easier. And there was some thought maybe the league is going to try to do this more often, especially with the division teams where they normal circumstances will play each other 4 times, 2 home, 2 away. But the league really didn't do that. It made too much sense, right?
So following Saturday and Monday against the Ducks here in St. Louis, the Blues are scheduled to go to Buffalo. We've seen some of the pictures coming out of Buffalo. We know the NFL has moved the Bills Browns game to Detroit for this Sunday, as they were saying 3 to 6 feet of snow in feet. And I've seen the videos and pictures from Buffalo, and there's not an exaggeration. I mean, it is already starting to pile up. Are there any plans to move that game? Has there been anything discussed, or are they thinking that everything will be ready to go by Wednesday?
Nothing that I've heard of, but that's a really good question, because I thought of that. And okay, we know Buffalo, they know how to handle snow because they get plenty of it. But yeah, 3 to 6 feet is a little different. The game isn't until Wednesday, so maybe they'll have things cleared out. But the team would fly in on Tuesday, so yeah. I don't know. And, since pre-COVID, we would fly the Post-Dispatch, and we'd pay for the flight. We would fly with the team on the team charter. But since COVID, we haven't. So this is like, 3rd season in a row where we're flying commercial. Who knows if I may have to try to cajole the Blues into let me hop on the charter just for this trip, because who knows if the flight schedules will be back to normal by Tuesday. But there have been so many already weird wrinkles to the schedule, Joe. Remember how few games the Blues were playing early. Now they're playing a lot. But who drew up this schedule? So you play in Buffalo on Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. Then you're flying down on Thanksgiving Day, and you're playing a back-to-back against Tampa and Florida. Not exactly the easy travel. So I'm flying out at like 7 a.m. on Thanksgiving morning, because it's the only nonstop from Buffalo down to Tampa, and you don't want these 2 or 3 stops. Luggage can get lost. So even if it's a little bit of a inconvenience, you want to get that nonstop. So it's a little bizarre. We have Beth O'Malley, who's an editor that helps with our digital stuff. She's from Buffalo. She's up there with her folks. She invited me to stop in for Thanksgiving dinner with her folks, which was outstanding, but I'm flying out in the morning, so I can't do that. And there's a fan in Tampa who's on, we have the Blues chat every Wednesday, who invited me to dinner with him. And he seems like a nice guy, but you don't know about fans, right? There've been movies made about these things, right? Robert De Niro and the Fan. Of course, that was where he was stalking Barry Bonds or something, like stalking a player. So I don't know if I'm going to go there.
You know what? But you're going to be in Florida where it's cold here, so I'm guessing you're gonna do just fine and be okay with that. And I'm sure the
Yeah, that's
entire
where you want to play Tampa and Florida. You don't want to play them in September, right?
And all of the years that all the years that you cover the Rams as well, you're used to all the travel around Thanksgiving anyway. So this isn't new to you.
No, and actually, this is this is my 6th season, believe it or not. Time flies covering the Blues. This will be the 3rd time I'll be on the road for Thanksgiving, and so it's just part of the thing.
Yeah. Did you ever the Rams? When was the last time they ever do a Thanksgiving game?
They never had a Thanksgiving game in my 21 seasons, covering all the 21 seasons in St. Louis. There was one year, this is before this, when trying to get the expansion and they were going after the Rams, where I would cover like a game in a different league city, and be a lot of Chiefs games and Bears games. But I covered a Miami at Dallas game for Thanksgiving, and that was the game where Leon Lett was it Leon Lett?
Oh yeah. Don B.
Was that Super Bowl where he got the ball stripped.
Oh, okay.
It was like a blocked field goal.
Oh,
and so he picked it up and
against the Dolphins, right?
Huh?
Against the Dolphins, right?
Yes.
He wasn't supposed to touch it at all because that would have made the ball live, and he touched it, and the Dolphins were able to move it, right?
Yeah. But even in all those years, the Blues are practicing. The Rams are practicing on Thanksgiving Day, so I'd be out there for practice. I remember. You remember Sean Landeta?
Yes, the punter. Yeah,
he got cut on Thanksgiving Day of all things, and he actually we're out watching practice, and we see a different punter, and we're like, "What the heck is this?" So we come in for the post game, the post practice interviews, and Sean Landeta comes in and announces to us that he had just been cut on Thanksgiving Day. So that's my big Thanksgiving football memory there.
Poor Sean Landeta.
Yeah.
To be
he had a good run though. He had a heck of a.
He
career.
Did. Yeah, between that and the Eagles and
Giants.
Yeah. He played a very long time.
He dated a Playboy bunny for several years. So Sean had a good career.
Yeah, if getting cut on Thanksgiving's though, if that you take the ups with the downs on that, I guess. Yeah. Well, JT, thank you so much. Hey, as they're doing, as the Blues are going up and down the way that they have this year, I mean, just imagining everything that you have seen in sports in your career, I got to imagine that this is up there with some of the crazy, unbelievable things that you've seen.
Yeah. I thought after the Mizzou Tennessee game, I had because Dave Matter, our writer, said it was the second most yards they gave up in one game, and the most was the 750. In that 77-0 loss to the Oklahoma Sooners, the Norman Conquest. I was at that game in 1986. You remember the Brian Bosworth, linebacker, bad actor, shoulder pads off, leaning over a fence, eating a hot dog, talking to fans in the second half because it was 48-0 at halftime. The Scrubs were in. That's my memory of that. But yeah, that's why we love sports, though, right? The unpredictability.
Exactly. JT, thank you so much. Hey, have safe travels next week. Have a very happy Thanksgiving, whoever you decide to spend it with.
You bet. Thank you, Joe.
That's Jim Thomas. I'm Joe Roderick. Hey, back after this on Weekend Joe, driven by Mungenast St. Louis Acura, Mungenast Alton Toyota here on ClaibsOnline.com.
Honey, what are you doing up?
I'm too excited to sleep.
Have you tried counting sheep?
Yeah, but it didn't work.
Have you tried counting Albert Pujols home runs?
But there's so many.
Let's just give it a try, okay?
Okay.
Good night.
1 Albert Pujols home run. 2 Albert Pujols home runs. 3 Albert Pujols home runs. 4 Albert Pujols home runs.